My name is Selachel Papaloy Thompson, and I'm coming to you live from Nassau, the Bahamas. I'm dealing with the subject matter of group self-preservation for we of us African peoples. My reason for going into beginning this topic, is because of the serious issues we face as African peoples throughout our diaspora and the continent. Most of the issues that must be discussed in future series may be for some offensive, may be for some educational, but it is not new information. It is an old information that has been forgotten. There are many factors that has contributed to the conditions of the African peoples. And so, doing extensive studies with men of my mindset and women, we have developed a concept that we believe, if it is singularly applied and if it is correctly applied, would produce the desired effect of total Aboriginal African sovereignty and Aboriginal African liberation in all the areas of our diaspora and continent-wise. We have developed a concept which deals with group self-preservation, but it starts from the knowledge of nation building. We have lost the concept of what it means to be nation builders. We were once the world's first civilizers. And in future series, we would go into this to prove every assertion that I assert can be factually proven. However, I would like to begin this series with a story that I want us to think and ponder well upon. The Aboriginal African has always dressed him or herself in the title of natural peoples. And there's a reason why we saw ourselves as part and parcel of nature. We understood that the one true law that governed the universe was this natural law. And that in fact, to look at the law of nature was to understand the workings of this whole machinery that we describe of as the universe in its entirety. When we look at nature and allow nature to begin to inform us, we begin to understand that the nation building process is not a process that is taken out of the air, but that we see this intrinsic occurring on all levels and throughout all species existing in nature. So I would use the example first of a lion. A lion and his pride. The lion naturally provides the necessary protection. The lioness does the necessary hunting. Now, I would like to also introduce two other cats of the cat family, the hyena and the leopard. All of these cats are of the cat family, yet they have three separate existences. They've all demarcated territory that is necessary for their and their cubs' survival. But the manner in which they survive is totally different from each other. The lion, a carnivore by nature, allows that the lioness does the hunting, in which they pursue and bring down fresh meat. The hyena, whose by its very nature is a scavenger, usually doesn't kill fresh meat. It eats off the food in which other animals has already brought down. The leopard, being of a smaller body structure, in order for it to survive, have developed a skill set that it takes its prey into the tree, and there it eats its meal. Each of these are cats, but according to the environment in which they live, they have produced different ways and means that they and their offsprings would have the best chance of survival. Does this occurrence only occur in the animal kingdom? Does this occurrence occur throughout nature? We as human beings believe that there is only one way of living. We have adopted for the last 500 years a way that has been antithesis to the very nature of what it means to be Aboriginal African peoples. And so I would introduce to you another story. And this is for you just to sit back, you viewers, and ponder on. There are 3 young boys. One is a black boy that I would give the name Johnny. One is an Asian boy that I will give the name Singh. And one is an Arab boy that I will give the name Habib. Both of those, all 3 of those boys finds themselves in any typical black community throughout our diaspora or on the continent. This is a common feature. And you would find that Johnny is standing on the street corner at 5 years old, and he is watching the other black boys older than him peddling drugs, involved in different types of activities that may be considered criminal activity. Contrast with Habib and Singh, whose parents has traveled many miles to come from their homeland, and they have come to build businesses in our community. Remember the lion story, the hyena story, and the leopard story. They have built businesses in our communities so that young Habib and young Singh is running through the stores. Picture this, because I know that you viewers see this wherever you go in our black community. Now fast forward 10 years later, young Johnny, who has for his first 5 years been introduced to seeing his own stand on the street corner, peddle the drugs and engage in different criminal activity, he is now, from that influence, making his first stint into the juvenile system that we have prepared for him. Young Singh and young Habib has now graduated from running around the stores of their parents' store that is in our African communities, and they are standing up or sitting down on a chair at the cash register, and their parents are teaching them how to add the funds that they are making off of our people in our communities. Fast forward 8 years later, they are all 18 years old. Young Johnny, whose cycle of life hasn't changed at all, is preparing to make his first stint in a prison or penitentiary, while young Habib and young Singh has graduated from the university on our money in our African communities. Now I ask you, based upon this scenario, are we as African people practicing group self-preservation? Every one of our communities throughout our diaspora and throughout the continent is overrun with foreigners, be it Arab, be it Asian, be it European, be it Hispanic. And when they come into our communities, 9 times out of 10, they do not have our best self-interest. If we understand the scenario of the lion, the hyena, and the leopard, they have all demarcated their territory because they understand one thing about group self-preservation. If they allow another cat, if the lion allowed the hyena to come into its territory,